Trolls come in all shapes and sizes. Big trolls, small trolls, trolls that tell you to kill yourself in Minecraft. In video games, this still applies. Trolls are everywhere and in various forms, though typically they tend to be big, brutish, and intelligent enough only to earn a bachelor's degree from dumbass university. To some people, the trolls of World of Warcraft are a comic relief race of lanky blue dudes with strong Jamaican accents and toes like the end of a crowbar. However, they are, in my view, one of the most unique incarnations of this fantasy race in all of video games, and definitely take the prize as the most unique race in WoW, in my opinion. There are two playable troll races in World of Warcraft. Race number 1, plain old trolls. Race number 2, Pandaren, because only a fucking troll would play one. Yeah, number 2 is right. The trolls you first encountered as a Warcraft player were actually Armani forest trolls way back in Warcraft 2, who joined the old Horde and became good buddies with the orcs based on their shared love of the colour green and of course the anabolics. Now you don't actually get to play as a forest troll in World of Warcraft, and you might be wondering why that is. It's actually a pretty long story and I don't want to get into it now, but to summarise, these trolls were pretty hardcore, and whilst they were very much into the bloodthirsty antics of Jack Blackhand and Dr. Doomhammer, they weren't so keen on Thrall's new horde, which they saw as, well, as soft as a baby's first shite. The situation worsened when, later down the line, in search of a counter to the Alliance's ever-growing roster of S-tier waifus. Vol'jin, we must get more babes into the Horde. I hear you, man. The situation worsened when, later down the line, in search of a counter to the Alliance's ever-growing roster of S-tier waifus, Thrall allowed the Blood Elves into the Horde. You know, the same people responsible for chopping off the left arm of the Armani chieftain, forcing him to have to eat with the same hand he scratched his arse with. From there on, the relationship deteriorated pretty quickly, funnily enough. In classic World of Warcraft, you actually play as a jungle troll of the Darkspear tribe, who were first introduced in Warcraft 3, and were most notable for getting their asses handed to them by a race of fishmen whose only form of communication was gargling an elephant's ballsack. Don't get the wrong idea though, these trolls were really cool and very interesting, sharing the primitive tribal characteristics of the orcs and tauren that made up the Horde at that time. However, what made the trolls unique was the focus on tropical, real-world inspirations for their culture, especially from the Caribbean, Pacific Islands and South America, though there's also some West African elements in there in my view. You've got headhunters, witch doctors, voodoo, and of course, mojo. Lots and lots of mojo.
Mojo.
And there are troll tribes that can be found absolutely everywhere in the World of Warcraft. I mean, we've already discussed the Darkspear and the Armani tribes, but there are Drakari trolls, Frostmane trolls, Glasgow Tunnel Rave trolls, and even the Reventusk tribe, though no one seems to give a fuck about them. Each of these tribes were unique because trolls, more so than any race, are shaped by the land they inhabit, in some cases literally, with the physiology of different tribes changing significantly depending on where they live. They worship different animal spirits or lower, in my opinion the most interesting mythological aspect of World of Warcraft for the playable races. And many of these lower you can actually find in-game, usually in a fucking cemetery nowadays, but hey, that's trolls for you. Moving on. It's the blend of cultural inspirations which I think makes the trolls of World of Warcraft so interesting. One minute they're talking to you about voodoo and living in these little huts deep in the jungles of Stranglethorn, but the next thing you know, you walk round a corner and you're confronted by these giant fucking Aztec pyramids, like the whole zone was designed by Giorgio fucking Tsoukalos. Tsoukalos? Tsoukalos.
Okay.
The ancient aliens, man. This is the best thing about the trolls. Whenever you come across them in-game, there are frequent visual reminders of their greatness, that they were once the most powerful, widespread and dominant civilization on the planet. But this civilization is no more. These once great, mighty structures are now in ruins. The trolls are now shadows of their once proud selves, living in scattered, primitive communities, relying on black magic and stone tools to survive. It's kind of a lot like Great Britain actually, except we're not good at hunting, we're just fucking depressed. A little known fact is that I was actually in an exclusively troll role-playing guild for several years a long time ago, and to this day, I consider those times to be the best I ever had in World of Warcraft, outside of my very first days of playing the game. We spent most of our time hanging around inside post-Cataclysm Zul'Gurub, but a short time before old ZG was shut down to make way for the revamp, and sometime before I joined that troll guild, I managed to get myself the main hand Warblade of the Hakari on my first ever max level character, a Tauren Death Knight. Yeah, I know, I'm a pretty cool guy. Now this might sound like some serious ancient alien shit, but when I got that sword, I was really intrigued by the quote, forged in ... that was on the item in the description, and for some reason I decided that this must mean that it wasn't made in Azeroth and Blizzard were trying to tease some juicy lore for Hakar, who I thought was absolutely badass, because he's Hakar. Following this logic, I convinced myself that Hakar must actually be an alien who came from space, which is where aliens come from to be fair, because he had a magic space sword that wasn't made on Azeroth, right? It wasn't until I joined this troll guild months later and spoke to someone who A, had played the game since vanilla, and B, wasn't a dumbass teenager like I was, that I found out that this sword had an offhand counterpart which had the quote, the seething flames of hatred on its description, and that therefore Hakar was not in fact an alien as I had concluded, and was instead just an edgelord. I was very disappointed, and to this day, I still think that my lore for Hakar is much better than the crap that Blizzard came up with. But let me know what you think about Hakar being an ancient alien in the comments below. I learned a lot about trolls in that guild, and my appreciation for them grew immensely, as did my appreciation for roleplay as a whole. We had a lot of good times back then. You know, up until one dude joined, pretended to be a girl, and catfished half the dudes in the guild, but hey, that's roleplay for you. Finally, I want to return to the Darkspear trolls, the original in-game trolls that you could play as from the very beginning, who have been a part of World of Warcraft for so long that they have even progressed up the evolutionary ladder in the time that they have been in the game. Nowadays, thanks to Vol'jin coming to the fore in Mists of Pandaria and the introduction of the Zandalari, the Darkspear don't feel as isolated and niche as they once were. But never forget that there was a time when the Darkspear trolls that you could play as in-game were a bunch of super cool, rare dudes who rode around on raptors and defied every other troll tribe who wouldn't stand with them. Or rather, crouch, because you know, they couldn't stand up straight. Personally, I think that makes them really badass, and with the blend of themes that went into their design, they absolutely are the most unique race in World of Warcraft. Tazdingo!
What?
I'll tell you later. Thanks for watching, my friend. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to rate it 5 shrunken heads out of 5 and leave a comment down below. I have a great time making these videos about the different races in WoW, and I want to cover some more. Which shall be next? We will see, but for now, I will see you in the next video. Be well, guys. Bye-bye.